doing tonight? It's morning time. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here, or 2:30 in the morning, Texas Central Standard Time. How is everybody doing? Good to see you all. Yes, I am a night owl. I do my best work when it's dark, it's night, and this is October and it's spooky month, which is one of my favorite months of the year, October. How are y'all doing? How are y'all doing? So I'm here. I'm all G'd up for Halloween, and I want to show you all my earrings right here. And I have myself testing on the other TV. Um, and so I'm cleaning my glasses. And I said, let me dress up a little bit for Halloween. I have my Halloween shirt on. And then I could show you all the shirt, which is a really cute, just a darling shirt I love. And I haven't worn it actually since I was working. I wore this. I last wore this at the Halloween party at my job, and that was years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I think I still have it in there. So I have the little silk see-through sleeves that I love, the lace sleeves. I just love this. And also check out my earrings, which is little Halloween skeleton. Look at that. Isn't that not cute? Oh, that's so cute. And this is a special night for us tonight. A very special night to give to the BOM members. Hello, everyone. I'm Rhonda. If you're new here, I'm Rhonda with Rhonda's Lovely Sparks. And so happy to see you all. Happy October. I thought about doing something really special tonight. And Edgar, right here, is Dark Princess by W.E.B. Du Bois. And during our book reading, I am halfway through that. Checking out all my devices, make sure my chat's working and everything. So this is the book that we have been reading every month. And then what I want to share with you all, since it's so special, since it's October, one of my favorite readings is the short story by Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, what a weird person. Oh, and I like weird stuff. I love weird things. I am sitting back in my chair, relaxed. I have a pillow on my back. Let me tell you what's going to be very unique about this book reading. Not actually book reading, the short reading of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. It's not only am I going to start off and read the story, read this special writing to you that Edgar Allan Poe wrote in 1843. He wrote this in 1843 called The Telltale Heart. After I get through reading, I'm going to cover the background of the story. I'm going to cover the guilt he had, the mental health aspects of Edgar Allan Poe, and the mental health aspects of this story that he wrote. We're going to have characters analysis, literary analysis, the confinement that he suffered. They're saying the character in the story, which makes you think, was he really writing about himself? Because Edgar Allan Poe had a lot of mental health issues. Then we're going to give I'm also going to read to you a summary of Edgar Allan Poe. And all this is what I took my time to type up. Um, it's several pages, about 6 pages of really incredible, thorough background of the story. And it gives you more intense study of Edgar Allan Poe if you're not aware of him, but also an intense summary of probably something you didn't know about him. And what's so great about rereading these stories, which this is up for public domain, what's so fascinating is that we have new scholars and we end up getting new information that comes to the forefront about what we knew and learned way back years ago. I learned this when I was in school. That was 30 something years ago. And this was so great about rereading these wonderful pieces, because our interpretation gets better and our interpretation defines things more clearly for all of us to understand. Back then, and probably now, yeah, it's a very horrific story. But with the horror, it tells you about his mental instableness, which I really feel that this reflects on him in real life, Edgar Allan Poe. So, here's another copy that I have typed up, and it's actually the story called The Telltale Heart. And you all know how I am about my book readings. I love reading, and I love portraying, I love reading about the character that I'm reading about, or the author, or whatever is going on with the storyline. I want to really put emphasis on some things that are very important, because I remember, and you all could also engage into this conversation and let me know how you felt. But I remember what really made me love reading was the teacher that I had. The teacher was phenomenal. And I loved how she took such a complicated writer, Edgar Allan Poe, and how she made it fun. And I feel, yes, it's all about the teacher. It's all about, in order for a student to understand and learn, that you have to like the teacher, and they have to be able to have such a great gift to be able to translate things to students, so students will be willing to learn and hold on to these beautiful gems. This is one of those beautiful gems that I was so fortunate to hold on to and remember today. And I remember back in the day, another piece I really enjoyed of Edgar Allan Poe was The Raven. The Raven. I might try to see if I can find that movie too and post it as a movie watch party. But let's get started. Sorry, I had a throat lozenge for my throat. Whew, if y'all only knew what I went through to get this thing going. I kept having to reschedule the book reading tonight because I just didn't feel I was ready enough, and I just needed everything, hair and what I was wearing, and just take my time and enjoy this. Not that it's a job, and I really am a big believer when I do my book readings that how I come across is so important, to be that translator, to be that person that can share something with you and give you an experience that you might have had before, but something that's so much better through me. As much as my teacher was so important to me in that time, I want to feel that way to you as well. We are 10 minutes into Rhonda's book reading, but tonight is a special. The time is 2:40 a.m. in the morning, Central Standard Time. For those who did not see me live, you all will be able to indulge in the replay. And I'm just so excited to have you all here listening and enjoying. Uh, I try to really bring things that to the forefront that where you have some people that probably don't like horror, that I could bring it to you in a different way where it's fun, intriguing, educational, but fun, and doesn't feel like it's educational or a boring lecture, but something that you would love to indulge further. Hello, Lola Cowboys. Hello, baby. Hi, how are you doing? That's Lola. Hot sauce. Hello. So it is 2:40 a.m. in the morning here, which means it's 12 midnight over there in California. Hey, California. Hey. So I'm dressed up for Halloween. I have my little skeleton earrings that I bought so many years ago, and I was so happy to find it. I was like, wow, I found them. And I found the shirt that I wore at a Halloween party at my job. And I wanted to show this off again, my shirt, so you all can see my shirt. And it has all these cool Halloween decorations on it. It's so pretty. I just fell in love with it when I bought it back then. And what I really like about it is the lace sleeves. I love the lace sleeves. There's certain things about certain clothes I love. So welcome to the haunting story written by Edgar Allan Poe in the year 1843. And after I get through reading this, I'm going to take a deep dive. And my title says Devour. I'm going to devour this story, and I'm going to translate this story the best I can, like how my teacher translated for me to us students back in the day, 30 something years ago. She was incredible. I want to do better. What really brought my attention to this as well is after I get through reading, I'm going to share with you the confinement, the mental health struggles of the person he wrote about. It was a lot of mental health. He struggled with stability of mental health. It's going to be intriguing. I'm going to break down a character analysis of the story. I'm going to break down a literary analysis after I finish reading the story. And it's all important because I always wanted to share. When I was sleeping today, I just got up about a couple hours ago because I stay up all night. And I was laying in the bed. I was asleep. And I'm telling you so vividly and so clearly, I heard my husband call me. And he said, "Gamma!" And usually when he does that, I'm thinking, oh, my grandson is here. So I got up, opened up the door, was looking. I said, "Where's Tristan?" And he goes, "He's not here." Just as much as I want to share with you all about mental health, I think also if you don't feel like there are some mental health challenges, that book readings and being a part of my channel also helps with giving you a place of calm, giving you some time to really give your mind a break, a rest. And this is medicinal. The book readings are very medicinal. It's nurturing for the brain. We have to take a break. We have to drink a lot of water. I have my water. Do you all have your water? Lots of ice. Water break for everybody. Water break. So I wanted to share about when I was taking a nap. And I remember my mother, she suffered mental health. And that's going to be another live I'm going to do. But to briefly share with you is that her mental health, she suffered schizophrenia, Parkinson's disease, bipolar. And she suffered that being an offspring from her family who inherited and experienced the Tulsa riots. White people in that time, they did this all across the country, including where my blood relatives, my bloodline is from, Tulsa, Oklahoma. My mother suffered that. Her mother passed away at 20-something years old of tuberculosis, but understand that mental health goes way back. And when she lost her mother when she was 2 years old, of course she felt abandoned. She was only 2, but she remembered a lot. She felt abandoned. She felt alienated. She felt a great loss. And I remember when I was living with my mom, every year when Mother's Day came and my mother's birthday came, she would go into a very deep depression. So my mother inherited those mental health. My husband opened up the door and let Mothra in. Oh, here's Mothra. Thank you, honey. And that time, hi, baby. Hi. She's so happy to be out here. Hello. This sweet little baby. Hello. I have to give my cats attention. I can't ignore them. Even if I have a book reading, I can't ignore them. She wants my attention. So, we could say, well, where did she get that from? Is it hereditary? Well, I've been cognizant of that. I've taken MRI. I've been really trying to my best nurture my mind and my heart and eat healthy. And I remember talking to my mother at that time, and she said, well, how she got it, how she knows she became broken mentally, was the kind of life she lived and the things that she experienced. And I just think back, and I just, that's going to be a whole full live I want to cover about my mother's mental health and how that affected her. And her brother, who I love so much, I posted his picture in the community tab. And in the community tab, he served the Navy. And when he came back, the Vietnam War, and when he came back, he earned a Purple Heart. He earned a Purple Heart. And he was never the same after the Vietnam War. But he loved me, and I remember him loving me so much when I was a little girl. He visited of course, the Veterans Hospital a lot in Tulsa. That's another live as well, which I'll be sharing about the hospital, where it's basically located in the center of the 5 tribes. And we'll talk about that in another reading. But the 5 tribes means 5 Native American nations. It was centered right in the center. That's where the Veterans Hospital was located. But my uncle suffered schizophrenia. So it does seem like a lot of that going on in my family, and a lot of it seems to be seems to happen to a lot of people. A lot of people are out there not diagnosed. And if I can give one more advice to people who are listening, that when something doesn't seem right, and I'm not saying people with mental health are abnormal. It's their normal. It's just today, people can manage it with healthy vitamins, medications, counseling, lifestyle, working on your lifestyle, things like that. It's a hard topic sometimes for me to talk about, but the more I talk about it, I become better because it takes me to a certain energy of so much empathy and so much compassion. But when you're out there in the world and you see someone, you come across somebody who doesn't seem kosher, some difficulties at the job, someone who knocks on your door and it's an elderly lady and she's saying some strange things. She could be suffering from dementia, even if it's racist things. She could be, her dementia, her Alzheimer's could have contributed to her losing her filter, and she has lost that and lost her way, because there's this fine line of how social services and the government rules somebody who's not capable of caring for themselves. And it's sad. It's like someone who's not capable of caring for themselves, something devastating has to happen to them or someone else or both in order for the state to do anything about it. Because people with mental and physical disabilities have rights. So I'm just sharing it with you to come across somebody who's acting really way out there, not what you would call kosher. Take in consideration, maybe they didn't take their meds. Maybe they have dementia. Maybe they just suffering broken heart. And there is such a thing as suffering from broken heart. It is a very serious illness, a heart illness. There are all kinds of mental health issues, depression and bipolar. It's just all kinds. So I'm just saying, before we become confrontational with strange people out there, because there are a lot, and our political system is not helping with that situation when it comes to disinformation and misinformation, getting people riled up and bringing fear into politics and not being honest but scaring people for their vote. There is a larger percentage of people also who goes to these rallies are mentally imbalanced. So don't be surprised. And if that helps you understand your coworker, someone who walks up to your window and knocks on your door, just be smart. Don't be confrontational. Don't just open the door. Be cautious. Check out your surroundings. Carry mace. And be ready. And train yourself to be ready. Because there is a type of mental health that's controlled by drugs. There's an organic mental health that can be kind of managed and close to being cured with drugs. And then there is a type of mental health where it's so dark that there's nothing you could do but protect yourself and stay away, because just like anything else out there in the world, there's good seeds and there's bad seeds. So not everybody with mental health is decent, and not everybody with mental health is bad. So you can't do a one size fit all. You can't do a one size fit all. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. Okay, so I have to say that because I do have a responsibility with the material I put out there, and try to definitely explain to people about things to get people prepared for what I'm about to read. Hello, I see you. Come on. Come on. Hi, so she's all up here being nosy. Come here. She's right here. Guess I could turn it for you all to see Mothra. Mothra, get your butt out the cam. Hi. You say hello, Mothra. Hello. Here. Okay, so I have to give her time. I have to give her time. Okay, so let's get the camera. She's right here by me. She sits right by me because she knows I need her. We have 5 cats. All the rest are asleep, and Mothra stays up with me all night. You all want to go ahead and take another water break? Take a water break. Hydrate. I do a lot of talking because I feel it gives you time to go to the bathroom, get your snacks, go take a break, get your stuff, get your pillows, get your fur babies, get your little baby, whatever you have. Get yourself ready for such a delightful treat tonight. Okay, so I'm going to start. I am at 27 minutes into my live book reading, and I'm going to start now. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. Published in 1843. True! Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven. I heard all things in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly that I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea had entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object, there was none. Passion, there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold, I had no desire. I think it was his eye. It was this, the eye. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale, blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad? Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded. With what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it inside. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a lantern have covered thine madness? Would a madman have seen so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night, just at midnight. But I found the eyes always closed. I found that his eye was closed. And so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he has passed the night. So you see, he would have been a profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before the night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think there I was opening the door little by little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now, you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch, with the thick darkness, for the shutters were closed, fastened through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door. And I kept pushing it on steadily and steadily. I had in my head and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quiet still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down either. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no. It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all of the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. And I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise. When he had turned into the bed, his fears had been ever since growing upon him, and he had been trying to fancy them cautiously and causelessly, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." As he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head in the room. When I had waited a long time very patiently without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a little, a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot from out the crevice and fell full upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open. And I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness as a dull blue with a hideous veil over it which that chilled the very marrow in my bones, but I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the damned spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? Now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound so well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. I knew that sound so well. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant, and the old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder and louder. I say louder every moment. Do you mark me well? Am I mad? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And now at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and still stood with the beating grew louder and louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now I knew anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. And then I smiled gallantly to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased, and the old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you would think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head. I cut off the arms, and I cut off the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the floor of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then placed the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out. No stain of any kind, no blood spot, whatever. I had been too wary of that. A tub had caught awe. Ha ha! When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door, and I went to open it with a light heart. For what had now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information has been lodged at the police officer, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I got lost in my reading. Wow. So they received information because someone heard this shriek sound, and which the information has been lodged at the police officer, and the officers had been deputed to search the premises, like deputized. I smiled. For what did I have to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them to search. Search well. I led them at the length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure and undisturbed, in the enthusiasm of my confidence. I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerfully, they chatted of familiar things, but eerie long. I felt myself getting pale and wished that they would go. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness until at length I found that the noise was not within my own ears. Interesting. We're getting to the last page. No doubt, I grew very pale, but I talked more fluently, and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased. And what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped of breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I rose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations. But the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men. But the noise steadily increased. Oh, God! What could I do? I foamed. I raved. I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting, and I grated it upon the boards. But the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder and louder, and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possibly they heard not? They were making a mockery of my horror? This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I couldn't bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now again, hark, louder, louder, louder. Villains! I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. The end. Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, 1843. Now, we're going to go over some more details of just quickly breaking down some analysis, some mental health things going on with this, what's going on with the character, which I think it was Edgar Allan Poe in real life, because he was a very dark person. The guilt he had, how that overwhelmed him. What happened that made him tell on himself? We're going to talk about that right now. Ready for a water break? Let's take a water break. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to The Telltale Heart of Edgar Allan Poe, written back in 1843. Wasn't that an amazing write? See cat hair. So my cat's over there laying next to me. Oh, she's close by. Let's get into this. Thank you all for being here for the reading. And I'm going to do just a quick breakdown of the backstory of this incredible Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart. The background story. The Telltale Heart is a story by Edgar Allan Poe written in 1843. It is about a murderer who tries to persuade his readers of his mental stability while telling the tale of the brutish act. He denies that he suffers from some mental illness and openly boasts of his cleverness and cunning behavior. He kills an old man through though he loves him. He holds no grudges against him, and he murders him without any motive. The old man's vulture eye makes the narrator angry, and he decides to kill him. He attends to every minute detail in the process of the murder, carefully kills him, disjoints every part of his body, and then buries the body parts underground in the room. He pulled the planks out and put his body parts underneath the planks. His anxiety increases. His guilty conscience constantly pricks him and reminds him of his brutal act. Eventually, he cannot bear the secret anymore and confesses his crime to the policeman. Yeah. Next, I'm going to share with you The Telltale Heart of Edgar Allan Poe, Tales Number 1. The untrustworthy narrator, the narrator is the character, does not have a solid reason to murder the old man, apart from his hatred of the old man's eye. Furthermore, Poe has not given us detail about the narrator's relationship with the old man. We do not know as readers whether the narrator is a male or a female, do we? Poe only focuses on the events, situations which led to the killing rather than focusing on individuals. The story is one of his classics of Poe's short stories and of its genre, and the setting and diction used in the story makes it a classic Poe story. The story is a proof of human beings' inherently evil nature, and the unreliable narrator in the story brutally murders the old man irrationally and without any reason. The story also explores the paranoid state of mind of the narrator. Next, I'm going to read is the Telltale Heart summary. At the start of the story, the narrator is answering an imaginary listener. He confesses that he has been ill, but denies the fact that he is insane. Furthermore, he announces that the illness has given him more strength, especially to his sense of hearing. He tells the imaginary listener that he is more vigilant now and is able to hear everything. Then he tells the listener to listen carefully as he narrates the story. He confesses that there was no motive for what he did. He loved the old man who never harmed him. The motive behind the murder was not his wealth and gold. However, one of his eyes made him kill the old man. He hated his vulture-like eye, and it persuaded him to murder the old man. The narrator says that the old man's eye angered him, so he made up his mind to kill him to shut that eye for once and for all. Again, he tries to prove his sanity by admitting that he planned carefully to murder the old man, making us unaware that an insane person cannot plan. He informs his readers that for 7 continuous nights he would go into the old man's room quietly and would wait for the exact moment to commit the crime. He would examine the old man's eye with the help of his lantern and would find it closed. He would return unknowingly, as it is his evil eye which motivates him to murder him. Ironically, in the morning, he would ask the old man how he spent the night. He continues with the story and tells us that on the night of the murder, he went to the old man's room with more caution. He wonders at his cunning plan and laughs at the old man's lack of awareness. Out of nowhere, the old man sensed something and moved. The narrator tells us that he did not feel afraid, as he knew the old man could not see him in the darkness. He quietly entered the room. The old man suspected something, and he asked, "Who's in the room?" The narrator informs us that he did not move an inch for an hour, knowing that the old man is alert. Then he hears a frightening cry from the old man sitting alert in his bed. He tells us that the old man knows not of his presence, but he can assume his death is impending upon him. Afterwards, He gradually puts light on the old man and realizes that his hateful eye is open, and it makes him angry. He does not notice his face because he is not interested in it. Rather, it is his eye that troubles him, and the sight of his eye fills him with rage. Furthermore, as he boasts of his increased hearing sense, he hears the beating of the victim's heart. And he tries to stay calm, but the beating of the old man's heart increases his anger. The narrator becomes anxious and is unable to bear his heartbeat anymore. The narrator takes the help of the bed sheets and holds it firmly over his head. The old man slowly and gradually suffocates, and his heartbeat stops. The narrator takes a sigh of relief, knowing that his eye will never trouble him again. He again challenges those who questions his sanity and tells them that they should consider how he hid the dead body, so as no one can find it. He disjoints every part of the dead body carefully. Then he removes the planks and hides the pieces there, cautiously making sure nothing is left behind. Wow. Afterwards, he puts the planks down again, and with great care, so that no one can get a clue of the plank's removal. He again challenges those who question his sanity and tells them they should consider how he hid the dead body, so as no one can find it. When he finishes, the clock strikes 4 in the morning. Someone knocks at the door. He calmly opens the door and realizes that 3 policemen have arrived. They have been called upon by one of the neighbors who heard the shriek of the old man. They're here to investigate the mishap. He receives them calmly and tells them that he shrieked because of a nightmare. He escorts them all over the house and tells them to do their search. He even leads them to the old man's room, and he offers them chairs to sit there and rest. He confesses that his calm demeanor made the cops believe his explanation that they sat calmly there. They chat continuously, and after a while the narrator wishes that they should go, that they should depart. Slowly and gradually he becomes anxious, and his calmness fades away. And in the meantime, he hears some sound. At first, he perceives it to be inside his head. But then he realizes that the sound is not internal, rather it's in the room. He talks louder and causes commotion in the room to cover it up. But it gets louder and louder with the passage as he walks of time. He walks to and fro to the room to make some noise, but it intensely increases. However, the policemen seem not to hear it, and that they are busy chatting and smiling as usual, and the narrator thinks the policemen know that they are laughing at his stupidity. He says he constantly suffered because of their smiles and hearing that sound. Eventually, he cannot stand it anymore and confesses his crime. He tells the policeman to uncover the planks, and they find the mutilated body of the old man and his pumping heart. We're going to right now chat a little bit about also mental health, and the next we're going to talk about the guilt he had, confinement, and character analysis. The mental health of Poe's story shows its readers the importance of mental health. The story demonstrates the mental health illness can drive a person to the vilest acts. Psychological problems can lead individuals to act dangerously without any motive. The narrator in the story suffers from some mental problems which leads to his destruction. He, time and time again, denies the fact that he suffers from mental illness. But his awkward actions prove that he suffers from some psychological problem. He is obsessed with killing the old man for no apparent reason and scrutinizes him for 7 successive nights. The narrator, being paranoid, kills the old man out of fear, but that it is not an acceptable reason. Furthermore, he also enjoys the moment he suffocates the old man, holding the bed sheets tightly over his face. I just heard the ice maker scared the crap out of me. I'm up by myself. Whew, this story scares me. Ice maker. Furthermore, he also enjoys the moment when he suffocates the old man, holding the bed sheets tightly over his face. This event makes him a sadist who enjoys inflicting pain on others. This event also shows that he has some psychological problems. Through these events, Poe demonstrates the idea that an individual's psychological health is as important as his physical health. The next one is going to be about guilt. Guilt. Guilt is another significant true theme of the story. Although the narrator does not feel guilty of his crime openly, however, it is his guilty conscience which leads him to confess his crime. At first, he murders the old man in his room and calmly hides his dead body underground. Then he calmly receives the policeman and leads them across the house. However, in the hearts of his heart, he feels nervous with the passage of time. Slowly and gradually, he hears sounds which he did not hear previously. He becomes anxious. He tries to evade the sounds by making a commotion. However, his guilt does not leave him until he confesses his crime. He is of the opinion that the heartbeat is that of the old man's heart, but actually it is his own heart pumping with guilt. Externally, he enjoys killing the old man, but his guilty conscience does not let him enjoy the brutal act. Here's confinement. We're going to talk a little about confinement. The theme of confinement is central to the story, and I will tell you why. The actions in the story are confined to a house only. Neither the narrator nor the old man go outside the house throughout the story, and the narrator wants to break this confinement by murdering the old man, but is unsuccessful. He murders the old man, but never breaks his confinement. The narrator thinks he will escape the life of confinement by killing the old man, who is a threat to his freedom, according to him. But then he never succeeds. Instead, after killing, he becomes more confined to the old man's room. First, he would roam around the house, but after killing him, he sits with the policeman in the old man's room. He does not leave the room until he confesses his crime. The confinement can imply that the narrator's own psyche has imprisoned him, and he is unable to escape it. He thought he would gain freedom by killing the old man, unaware of the fact that it is his mental confinement rather than his physical which never lets him free. Let's do a character analysis of the story, shall we? Shall we? And the last part will be the narrator. We're going to talk about the narrator. And the narrator is identified as the person in the story who killed the old man. That's what Edgar Allan Poe calls this person. We usually call it the character. But what's interesting, when I've read these books, like W.B. Du Bois, he doesn't call the sections of his book chapters. He calls it, I don't remember the name of it. He doesn't call it chapters. He calls it section, place. So what's unique, every author has their thing, all right? Characters analysis. Here we go. Characters are people who have some individual traits in a piece of writing. Without characters, a piece of literature looks dull. There are mouthpieces for a writer through which a writer expresses their opinions about a particular issue. Characters provide them with an outlet to contribute to the social structure. Some characters are major characters on which the writer focuses more, while others are minor characters who have a supporting role in this piece of writing. Poe's story revolves around the unreliable narrator who murders an old man for no apparent reason. Other characteristics in the story are not significant. The detailed analysis of his character is given below. Okay, so now this is the last piece of the reading. I'm going to read to you the detail of the narrator, which we call the character. Poe does not give us information about the narrator's gender. We as readers do not know whether he is a male or a female. We assume that he is a male, and that is why he used the pronoun he for the narrator. After reading the story, we conclude that he has many problems in his character. He suffers from paranoia. He is nervous. He has some physical as well as mental illness, and he tries to prove his sanity for the most part of the story. After reading the story, we assume that the narrator acts according to his natural impulses. The narrator murders the old man because he thinks the old man is a threat to his individual freedom. And being paranoid, the narrator assumes the old man is always trying to harm him, although he confesses that he has never harmed him. He acts advance and takes the old man's life. He murders the old man due to his own fear. Furthermore, the narrator suffers from some kind of physical instability. His ears are hypersensitive, and he hears sounds which others do not hear. And we as readers do not know about his past and cannot claim that he suffers from some ailment, but his awkward behavior and his physical instability makes us think he is not physically fit. As Poe lived most of his life in the southern United States. Let's drink some water. My voice is cracking. Last paragraph. Listen to this. Now what we're talking about, the last paragraph right here. Right here. About Poe, the author. Remember when I mentioned that I feel that this has a lot to do with the author? As Poe lived of his life in the southern United States, we can contextually assume that the narrator is a Southern Gothic hero. The narrator may have a master-slave relationship with the old man. Let me read this again. As Edgar Allan Poe lived most of his life in the southern United States, we can contextually assume the narrator is a Southern Gothic hero. The narrator may have a master-slave relationship with the old man. It may be the case that the old man, as a master, mistreats the narrator or the slave. This may have urged the narrator to murder the old man to get rid of his authoritative behavior. I've never heard that before. God, that's really good. I never heard that before. That tells you, pay attention who's teaching your kids, because some teachers ain't going to tell you the full truth now that they've been banning a bunch of books. As parents, as guardians, we just have to take more full control at home to educate our children. Do not depend on teachers, because I was never taught that part, because I guess she just didn't want to talk about the slave, right? And can you imagine how many people in that time failed the exam because maybe they was right but was graded wrong? Lastly, the narrator may be a sadist, a person who derives pleasure, especially sexual gratification, from inflicting pain or humiliation on others. And to fulfill his sadistic impulses, he may have murdered the old man without any apparent reason. The narrator's character in the story is an enigmatic one and arises many questions in the reader's minds. And the above analysis is not blunt realities about his characters, but mere assumptions. And that's the end. I want to break that down because I knew there was some. Oh, okay, here we go. We got one more page. I knew something was leaving me empty. Literary analysis. I'd love to break down the analysis, because I just didn't understand why they were going to end this great read from just the narrator's position. So he's ending this from a literary analysis, which I had promised to you all. Check out the descriptions. I've been putting lots more time into the video descriptions, so you'll understand what to expect in anything that you watch in my videos, and the content and the history possibly, and the just detailed description, and expect what I'm going to talk about. The description is one of my cherries on top. It means a lot to me, because people like me love reading. And when people are taking a deep dive into your content, I figured out, you're subscribed, right? But at the same time, people can look at your stuff online and don't have to be subscribed. So the great thing about it is me being able to put out information out there for people that can take a deep dive into what I do and get them to the point where they could subscribe and pay for a membership. Because I did share with my board members of Rhonda's Lovely Sparks, who are the ones who wear the wrenches, and especially the members are the top board members. I did share that I was going to start this, and it was going to be short, public domain, short readings of literary writings by geniuses that go way back. The art and everything. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I will add quickly that I have been communicating with the Library of Congress, and I have shared that I have been communicating with this church where W.E.B. Du Bois used to speak, and a lot of just wonderful Black and Jewish advocates for freedom and equality used to speak. I've been emailing and been reaching out every time I'm working and staying up all night. I take it further beyond even talking to Universal Pictures, talking to just people, and trying to see if I get access to more content and legal content that I could read. And this is why I was so happy to get this, where I could share and still finish my book, which is Dark Princess by W.E.B. Du Bois. Got to finish that. But I want to give a treat, something different, and go back and reading W.E.B. Du Bois' Dark Princess, because we left at the last part where his best friend Jimmy was lynched. And he heard the thumping on the side of the train, and his body was swinging back and forth. And then the story just ended. So we got to dig deep into the next chapter, into what to expect. Okay, so it's getting a little woo in here because one of my lights went out. But I'm good. Let it be scary. Let's add a different ambience to this. Things happen, right? Let's add a different ambience. Literary analysis of this. Edgar Allan Poe's short story poses many questions to be answered by the readers and listeners. The reality of the narrator, or the narrator, the motive behind his murder, his relationship with the old man, and the issues of his mental health and physical health are to be discussed in this analysis section. The narrator is an unreliable person having no specific name. Even we do not know about his gender. Most of the critics believe that the narrator is a male. He was the norm at that time. However, others believe that it may be a female character who narrates the story. And the narrator actually illogically throughout the story and follows his instincts rather than reason. On the basis of these qualities, some critics believe that the narrator might be a female because irrationality and emotionality were associated with women at that time, and Poe focuses more on the events in the story rather than the individual. So he leaves it open for his readers and his listeners to decide whether the narrator is a male or female. There seems to be no motive behind the narrator murdering the old man except for the old man's evil eye, which the narrator dislikes. And however, this excuse is not strong enough to take someone's life. Critics believe that the narrator suffers from paranoia, and paranoid personality leads him to commit the murder. A paranoid person feels fear of others all the time. Same is the case with the narrator in the story. He feels afraid of the old man, though he has never harmed him. In order to counter his fear, he kills the old man without an apparent reason. On the other hand, the narrator may want, our last paragraph, on the other hand, the narrator may want individual freedom, and that is why he kills the old man. He confesses himself that he was not targeting the old man's gold or money. He may be struggling to gain freedom, which may seem impossible if the old man lives, so he decides to kill him. Ironically, he becomes more confined after murdering the old man. Consequently, we can say that there is no apparent reason for murdering the old man. These are my mere speculations. The end. Thank you all so much for being here. I wanted to definitely, everything I do, I take a very deep dive because I feel that I would like to go back and reference this again. I feel that this has long shelf life, that anybody that ends up subscribing and buying into this, that they could get the quality. The shelf life is forever. It doesn't expire. The story doesn't get old. And what the story does is really gives us an insight on how important and how serious mental health is. And a lot of people look at YouTubes and they laugh at a lot of people's demise. They laugh at these extreme personalities and on YouTube and these crazy videos out there. And trust me, there is a rhyme and a reason behind these extreme personalities. It's something we just need to be cognizant of when we're dealing with people in the public. And then just like with this character here, he just appeared to be normal for a very long time. He always would psych himself up to convince himself and to convince others that he's good, he's fine, he's not a madman. And he was. He was a madman. So I'm so glad that you all have enjoyed the story. Thank you for being with me this morning. Stay tuned. Tonight I'm staying up and I'm going to be putting in some kind of Halloween treat for 1 o'clock tomorrow. And then tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Always Saturdays at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. I have cartoons with vintage commercial, and I alternate that with nostalgia, which is non-animated, but nostalgia like the Little Rascals. You know, it's not animated, but it's nostalgia. The heroes, the superheroes, it's like, you know, very good filming, black and white, vintage. And so I alternate that every other week. Last weekend, a couple weekends ago, I had, what is her, Little Lulu, which I just loved. And then I had something else. So this week is time for some vintage commercials. So stay tuned for tomorrow. It's going to be Halloween cartoons. It's going to be Halloween cartoons and Halloween commercials. The whole deal is Halloween, which will have a long shelf life too. So we're excited. And tomorrow night, the double feature horror movie, The Horrors of Spider Island, the Atom of the something, the horror. It's going to get better. And tune in for Tuesday. We have the trilogy of horror. Tuesday night with 3 vintage Halloween cartoons. So Tuesdays, I do pre-movie cartoons on Tuesdays plus a movie on Tuesdays. 1 movie plus pre-movie cartoon. 1 o'clock Saturday, I do nostalgia, commercials, cartoons, alternated. And for Saturday nights, we have the double feature drive-in intermission. And I have a new intermission that has zombies eating pizza for the month of October. And I just put in a lot of little special things to make this month a special fun month. And if people out there are like having some fear of horror, hopefully being around me and my live watch parties, you can like upgrade your memory into having fun watching horror. You know, get you some yummy to eat while you watch it, get you some hot cocoa, and just truly enjoy being together with friends. Thank you all so much for being here. Love you. Shout out to Lola for being here. And I see some more people singing the cut. Thank you all so much. I believe you all are probably at work. And thank you all for being a member of the BOM. And I'll see you soon.